5B, 5C, and 5D, which are Age at Home on behalf of Lake Life Properties LLC for 5A, Minuteman Press on behalf of Raft FE Trust for 5B. 5C is Pompanusick Mills on behalf of Siborowski and Associates, and 5D is the City of Concord request for ADR approval. If anybody'd like to remove one of those items from the consent agenda, you can make yourself known. If not, any member of the board wish to pull any of those items from consent? If not, we'll vote on them by consent. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those items outlined so eloquently by the chairman for item 5A, B, C, and D with ADR recommendations as outlined in the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. I think you're all set. You're Minuteman Press, right? Yes. You're all set. You're approved. So it gets one of the three out of the audience. So we'll do anything we can do to help you get out of here earlier. Okay, so that ends the consent agenda items. Will bring us to the public hearing section of our meeting. We've got item 6A, Comfort Inn on behalf of Dupree. Actually, I'll let Madam Clerk read that into the record.
Comfort Inn on behalf of Dupree Company LLC requests ADR approval to install a new internally illuminated wall sign and a new internally illuminated ground-mounted sign at 71 Hall Street in the Opportunity Corridor Performance District. You want me to give an update?
Yeah, if you could, I know there's been a lot of discussion around this with ADR. If you could give us a quick update.
ADR, so there was a discussion about the ground-mounted sign, which is actually in your application. It looks like a 8-foot tall freestanding sign. They wanted to see a monument sign instead of a freestanding sign. They wanted it to be lowered by 2 feet. And there was kind of extensive discussion, which ultimately resulted in them recommending that they come back next month and not be approved this month. The applicant requested to have it pulled from the consent agenda, and they essentially met many of the recommendations of, they addressed the issues that ADR had, and I apologize, I thought they would be here and we'd be able to provide you examples of their revised drawing, but I do have a digital copy that I can only bring up on my computer, so I'm going to just show it to you.
Let's just, before we do that, so the concern, looking through the ADR minutes, the concern was the height of the sign, which they adjusted and brought back down from the 8 foot. So what you see in your package, the picture on the right, is probably 3 or 4 feet off of the ground. The other one was like 8 feet off of the ground. So they...
No, that's opposite.
That's still...
The one in the picture
that
your packet is 8 feet tall.
To the very top of the sign.
This picture that I'm showing you on my iPad, which is you do not have in your packet, is 6 feet tall. So in your picture, it's a pole on a freestanding sign, and the revised has this orange band. Let me see if I can make it a little.
You want to pass this?
Nope, that's not what we're looking at.
Sorry.
So this has an orange band and a small gray panel on the bottom.
So those adjustments. So those adjustments.
Nice job.
Kudos to Concord TV.
Yes.
Hey, look at that. There you go.
So that's the revised version that essentially addressed ADR concerns. I did send it out to ADR members, and the ones that responded said they thought that it was appropriate and that addressed it.
So it was pulled because it didn't want to go through another month of issues if they could address the ADR concerns. So am I right in saying that the only concern was on that front sign, not the back sign?
Yeah, the other sign was recommended approved as submitted.
Okay, so just note on your packet here that there are 2 signs, 2 submissions for this one facing the highway, and that is an internally illuminated channel letter sign, and the front isn't internally illuminated as well.
Correct.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to approve those as submitted with the new drawings that Heather has regarding the concerns ADR had expressed with the height of the sign and the, what is it, monument sign as opposed to a post? That motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. That moves us into item 7 in our agenda. If we could read item 7A into the record, Madam Clerk.
J. Richard Jakes, on behalf of the Pennacook Community Center, requesting approval extension for a major site plan that was previously approved on October 21st, 2015. So I believe he's here, and staff does recommend that the approval be extended. I believe there's also a waiver request to waive the fee for the $300 fee for extension of the.
Okay. Nothing else from staff as far as any concerns with the extending this? So this is the one that we approved back in 15, maybe? Did I read
October
that?
21st, 2015.
2015. So, hey, Mr. Jakes, if you could come on up. Welcome to the table.
Thank you.
If you could just state your name for the record.
J. Richard Jake Sr.,
Okay, and you are now the executive director of the...
Executive Director of the Pinnacle Community
Pinnacle Community
Center.
Center.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, congratulations, or condolences, one or the other.
We'll
So-
let you know.
So the intent is still to do the work, you just need some more time
We're just trying to
do
keep
it.
our options open, even though it doesn't look like we're doing much there. We're still looking for funding. We're trying to come up with a redesign of our original plan. And it's taken a little longer with the transition from one executive director to myself and everything else we've had to do. So that's why we're asking for the extension to continue.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant? The waiver for 13013 for the site plan regulations is just a fee waiver, right?
Right.
So it's just waiving that fee. Obviously, you need every dollar you can save to
The city has waived it in the past.
put through. for
Thank
the-
you.
To put through. Okay, any other questions regarding this application? If not, we'd, yes, Carol?
I just want to make sure it's not an issue that it was due to expire in October, according to this letter.
Actually, that probably is a good thing to point out. And I believe last time you also did a waiver for the softball league when they came in a month too late.
Okay.
So maybe we should add a waiver. I believe you waived the site
Yeah, that
plan
was the one
regulation.
on, that was the one on
that said that
Ironworks
it-
Road, I think,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Oh, I didn't
And it
catch
was a
that.
similar
Good catch.
situation.
Excuse
Thank you
me.
for, it's a similar
Yeah.
situation.
We actually sent in our letter request
October
before
4th.
that
I
date.
think they did send it
And
in
we were
time, and it didn't
granted
make it on the agenda.
Come to this meeting instead of last meeting because there was too much to do and too little time.
Okay, so how do we handle it?
I think you can just recommend the waiver, and we can figure out what the appropriate citation is for the, just the minutes.
Don't want things to get.
No, I think
No,
that's great.
That's a great
I
catch,
appreciate
thank you.
that.
Yeah, no, we should
We
have
want to
caught
be
that.
consistent. So, yes, it's a good.
Okay, so has expired, so we'll need to modify any approvals to address that.
So basically, two waivers.
So
one
two
for the
waivers.
fee and another for that specific regulation that allows them to extend it past that date.
So we'll need a motion to extend it, a motion to waive the fee, and a motion to allow staff to create the paperwork and the citations necessary to go back a month, right?
Correct. That sounds good.
I just have one other point of clarification. Rick just mentioned that they were working on a redesign. If the redesign is internal only and the footprint would be the same, then nothing would change. But if it included footprint changes,
External changes,
they
yeah.
would need to,
Come back for an amendment.
Yes.
For approval.
so it would be an amendment.
We
Okay.
understand that.
Just wanted to make sure the process was clear here. Okay, I'll be quiet now.
How about a motion to grant them the extension, if you'd like to make that,
I would be delighted.
you'd be delighted.
Second.
So let's make sure we got it right. So what we're looking for is a motion to grant the extension, as outlined in your packet, a motion to waive the fee under section 13013, and then an additional waiver that will be created by staff to get us into compliance and with the right citations to address the application since it's already expired. Is that appropriate,
So was
Lisa?
that three different motions?
Three different pieces in one big
Or
motion.
one big motion? Okay, I will so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're good for another year.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Everyone else.
Thank you.
Can I just add a comment for all of our fans watching? So in the past month, the city removed a large number of red pines from that property, and just, we've made the abutters, we sent notifications to the abutters, but just to clarify, that's completely unrelated to this project. They were all infested with the red pine needle scale, and it was a public safety issue.
Gotcha.
So those were taken down. In case anybody gets any questions about if they were
Okay.
cleared for this, they were actually cleared because of the infestation.
The same situation that was at Rollins Park.
Exactly, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Mr. Jakes. Appreciate the time. And let's read item 7B into the record if we could.
Richard D. Bartlett and Associates on behalf of Matthew S. and Allison T. Hicks and Douglas W. Hicks requesting minor subdivision approval to adjust a lot line at 126 Mountain Road and 95 Shaker Road in the single-family residential district and medium-density residential districts. Staff does recommend that the application be determined complete and the public hearing open.
Okay, before we do that,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to recuse myself from this hearing.
so noted, Mr. Hicks has been recused from this hearing. We will take the motion to find the application or determine the application complete. If someone would like to make a motion to
So moved.
do that.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So we will go into our public hearing. We'll invite the applicant up to the table, and if you could state your name for the record.
Well, good evening. My name is Mark Sargent. I'm with Richard Bartlett and Associates, and I'm here tonight representing Matt and Allison Hicks and Doug Hicks. Matt and Allison own a piece of property located at 126 Mountain Road. That's, let me get the pointer working.
Is it on?
On the
Is
side.
this a pointer or is this,
It's a pointer.
okay,
Just turn it on and then slide it up.
Turning my car on and off, Mark.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then just press the red button.
All right. So that's Matt and Allison's property right there. 126 Mountain Road has an area of .48 acres, 106.68 feet of frontage on Mountain Road. Doug owns the larger portion of the property, or the larger piece that you see on there. That's 95 Shaker Road. Everybody probably knows it as the Shaker Road School. It's 50.83 acres, 160 feet of frontage on Mountain Road, and 1,525 feet of frontage on Shaker Road. The proposal before the board this evening is essentially to change the lot lines back to where they were in 2011. We were here before this board in 2011 to create the lot lines as they exist today. Matt's kind of goes right in front of the house and jogs out and then around the house. What we'd like to do is get rid of that lot line and put the new one right here. So that would give Matt and Allison a total area of 1.03 acres with 206.58 feet of frontage on Shaker Road, or excuse me, on Mountain Road. And 95 Shaker Road would be reduced to 50.29 acres and retain 60 feet of frontage on Mountain Road, no change to the frontage on Shaker Road. And there would be an easement for an existing driveway that goes right up through here that we would place on the property.
What was that, Mark? Sorry.
Oh, you can see the red dash lines coming up.
Right through to
Right there.
the right
There's
side.
an existing driveway there now that Mr. Hicks used to access the back part of the property. And that's about it. If you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, any member of the audience wish to address this application? I'm seeing none. We will, I know we don't close the hearing, but we will ask for any input from the board if any of the board members has a question regarding this application. Nope, looks pretty straightforward. Okay, so we have on our, sorry, back to my report here. So under 3.1, staff recommends the board grant the following requests for waivers from the subdivision regulations utilizing the criteria from RSA 67436 2N2, specific circumstances related to subdivision or conditions of the land in such subdivisions indicate that the waiver will properly carry out the spirit and intent of the regulations. That's section 15032, to provide the lengths and not provide bearings or two property lines for 95 Shaker Road, and 12083 topography to provide topography for the entire Shaker Road lot. And I think the item on the next page as well, right, which is section 1205 vicinity maps, to show the vicinity map at a school of one
Oh, that should say scale.
scale of 1 equals 5,800 feet instead of 1 to 1,000 to 1 to 2,000.
Late night, not enough.
So would
Right?
someone like to make a motion to grant those waivers as outlined so eloquently there?
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 3.2 is to grant minor subdivision approval for the lot line adjustment at 126 Mountain Road and 95 Shaker Road, subject to the following precedent and conditions to be fulfilled within 1 year. Address the technical review. You can see them there. The precedent conditions 1 through 6. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that
So
minor
moved.
subdivision
Second.
approval? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Great.
You
Thanks
are
for
all
your
set.
time.
Thank you.
hope you
Thanks
all
for coming.
have a
Sorry for the
wonderful
wait.
Thanksgiving.
Sorry for the wait.
Happy Thanksgiving, Matt.
To Matt.
Mark.
Mark.
Mark. Okay.
And now Matt returns to.
So that brings us to any other business that may come before the board. Why didn't we have our code update from last month? We could have stuck it in here nicely in this month. I believe this is it, correct?
Yeah, I think there's just a few items we
17
wanted to
minutes.
bring up. I just wanted to mention to the board that ADR was interested in having a special meeting with you to talk about the design guidelines and just make sure everybody's on the same page about precedents for signs and different things like that. I sent them out an email asking what dates they're available, and I think there was the first week in January. I'll send them all out to you as well. I just sort of wanted to get a feeling for when they were available. I think we were looking at either a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday sometime in the first 2 weeks in January. I would like to know, would you all prefer like an after-work kind of meeting, like a 4 to 5 or a 5 to 6, or would people prefer a later meeting, like a 7 to 8 kind of meeting?
Preference?
I have no preference. I mean,
Okay.
earlier is better for me, but I know other people have other things they're coming from, so.
We work.
I was trying not to say that, but.
He has a job. It's
Duly noted. He's rubbing it right in.
another thing.
So would a 6 to 7 meeting be okay? I mean, again, depending on chamber availability here, it's probably available 5 to 6, but a 6 to 7 would be better.
Can we do it later in January?
Yeah, we got one particular person that we need to have here, and she's going to be gone from the 15th into February. And we want to do it before the end of February. Sorry.
That's okay.
So that's a big no.
Obviously, that person's more important.
Go figure.
And again, just an informational meeting. ADR, as you know, is a subset of the planning board, so we should be meeting with them probably more often than we do, which is never. So we want to get them in here specifically for the guidelines to talk about some of the precedents regarding signage and some other things as well. But just to get to know them a little bit better and have a quick little meeting. It's maybe an hour, but I doubt it will probably even be that long.
And what were the Mondays and what were the days?
I think it was a...
8th, 9th, 10th, something?
Yeah, it was 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Or the second.
Tuesdays?
Or the second, thank you.
I had the email up.
Tuesday,
Yeah.
so we'll try for a Tuesday, one of those first Tuesdays.
And would we prefer like a 4 to 5?
Tuesday for
4:30
like-
to 5:30?
No,
or-
like a 6 to 7, if we can do it.
6 to
I'd prefer
7?
6 to 7 if we could do it.
Okay.
Is that 6 to 7 on a Tuesday night? Let's shoot for that, and we'll see what everybody can do.
That works.
Okay?
Okay,
All right.
sounds
Is that a
good.
regular public meeting?
No, it will be noticed
It'll
as a
be
public meeting. There
noticed.
won't be any agenda items other than just discussions regarding the Main Street Guide, and we will notice as a public meeting, and people can certainly come to it, but it's going to be more of a roundtable discussion with ADR
Yeah.
than anything else.
We can even maybe set the tables up in the back and just all sit around
Yeah,
that. so-
not as formal.
Right. So the other thing I wanted to circle around with you guys about is these tablets. I finally got it squared away with other staff about getting another set of tablets for ADR so that you will be able to take these home. So we need to work out a revised policy through legal, similar to the one that council members had to sign to receive their tablets. Hopefully we'll have that all squared away, and perhaps next month you'll be able to take these home. And you'll have the tablet policy as well. So hope we'll have that all squared away by next month. I
Great.
think that was it.
David Fox, would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
Before we do that,
Yes.
quick question. What's the timing for, every time of the year, we get asked about the fee, the impact fees, and looking at those.
Yep.
We've sort of gone and we kind of react to it based on gut and not with a lot of information. Can we get something before we have to vote on
Good
that?
point.
I don't know if it's at the end of the year or
Good point.
beginning of the year.
I think it's at the beginning of the year, isn't it?
What
I think it's-
type of, well, it's supposed to There, in this, the statutory requirement is that it go before council, I believe, I'm not sure if it's in December or January, but I was hoping to get it before you in December and have it go to council in January for either January or February public hearing, depending on how the schedule works out. What type of information, so we were going to look at our recommendations and just do the update like we always do. Is there additional information that you're interested in seeing?
I guess it's sort of the value of you know, what happens with that. I mean, because right now, is it a plus to, because it's a revenue stream for the city to fund projects? Or is it a little bit of a detriment for development, for example? And I don't have a good feel for that. You know, a lot of times we sit around and vote to say, geez, it seems like maybe we shouldn't increase that to try to encourage development, but yet there are projects that don't get funded because the city counts on that for revenue. So just that kind of basic information.
And I can give you a little bit of that information right now. So just to remind you all, we created the waiver for, or the exemption for commercial impact fees for transportation. So the only fees that we have now are the transportation impact fees for residential development and the recreation impact fees for residential development. The school impact fees were zeroed out for both Pennacook and Concord school districts. The residential, so that money goes into, depending on what district that the project is located in, where the impact fees are assessed. The city's basically broken up into 4 quadrants, and depending on what quadrant you're in, the money goes into that quadrant, and then the funds can be used for projects in that quadrant. So, for instance, if you are up in the northwest Concord, it would go quadrant, and if there are no projects, that money would just stay there until it gets used. So if you're in the properties that are sort of in the southeast where the Heights Community Center is, so the fees that went into the Recreation Impact Fee Fund in those areas were utilized as part of the funding for that project. And I believe it's usually always a fairly small revenue stream for whatever project is going through, but not insignificant, especially for transportation projects. And we can talk about it more next month after we give you the proposal and maybe give you a little bit of more information about what the thinking is behind why you would or wouldn't do it. And I don't...
That's what you're looking for, I think, right? Just a little bit more information and some background. Okay.
And I don't know what kind of support there is. If council is leaning more towards, let's just get rid of the transportation for residential as well, or if it's more, I think the recreation impact fees, there's a feeling that those are really, should be assessed, and those are really useful for those types of projects. The funds can only be used for increased capacity, so it can't be used for upkeep or maintenance of facilities. It's used for, when there's a need for a new facility or increased infrastructure and transportation. That's what the funds can go towards.
Would economic development have any impact, any input on that, as far as?
It just depends.
Again, to John's point is, are they being used? Are things being stagnated because are they too high, or aren't things being done because we're not collecting enough?
I think that's a valid conversation to have. I keep in mind that residential projects in the Central Business Performance District are already exempt from the transportation impact fees. So that's very significant. A lot of the projects that we've had have been in the CBP, and those have not had negative impacts because they've been exempt. But it's the larger subdivisions that might be in the exterior that may be more impacted. And I don't know, as we encourage or try to encourage maybe higher density development in some of those outer areas, like maybe on Loudon Road or performance districts, OCP, that might be a good question to ask if we're trying to encourage multifamily development. And for instance, the Opportunity Corridor, getting rid of the residential transportation impact fees might be a wise move.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, John. That was a good one. We'll recognize Matt Hicks back to the table so he can vote for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn then.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. That's the shortest meeting we've had in a long time.
It is.